Good evening, everybody, and welcome to The Uncomfortable Truth, the show that chews the fat into key football topics, calling out the hard truths in today's game. But before we kick off, make sure you show your love, people, by sharing this, hitting that like button, and subscribing to this channel. Now, don't forget, too, you can now message and donate to the channel in the link below. So make sure you do that because it will help grow this channel. And it's great to be back after a couple of weeks off. And my goodness me, wow, what a last couple of weeks with the internationals and last week with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer getting sacked from Manchester United. Now, today, I thought about the whole Solskjaer sacking, and I don't want to go into great detail about that. I feel like that's been done enough. But I want to talk about more of an overarching issue. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the sixth manager in the Premier League this season to get sacked. Now, if you look at managers started at the start of the season, 6 out of 20, that's 30%. 30% of managers have already been sacked, and it's not even halfway through. Now, for me, why is that? Now, I looked into some other stats in terms of the longevity of a Premier League manager, which is actually quite good in Europe. But you get less than 70 games on average for a Premier League manager. Now, for me, that's less than a full 2 seasons in football. That's not enough, surely, to implement a culture and a successful brand of football. So why is that? Why is the game gone to this when traditionally you had managers who were in the game for a lot longer? Has the structures changed? Now, traditionally, back in the day, you had managers and you had chairmen. So it seemed a little bit smaller. But nowadays, you have real rich owners coming in, DOFs, sporting directors, etc. Real rich owners coming in. And it kind of begs the question for me, DOF. In today's game, do the managers truly succeed with the state of ownership? Now, today, to help me dissect this, we're going to have the man, the myth, the legend that is Sam, to help go through all this. Sam, how are you today, bro?
I'm good.
You ready to dissect?
I'm ready to dissect. The past few weeks been long. Too much has happened in football. It's a bit of a mad one. And yeah, I'm just ready to get into this.
And I imagine you're in a happier mood now that Man United weren't embarrassed by Chelsea.
I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't scared. Let's not get. I'm not going to speak too much into that, but it's just certain things. Like, it's always when there's too, it feels like it's going to happen too much that it just doesn't happen. Like when City are supposed to spank us and win a Premier League title, we win 3-2. So I had like a weird ounce of like we might just scrape this, and we did.
Yeah. Well, if I speak, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble because today we want to talk about managers and whether they can really succeed today with the state of ownership. Now, for me, I want to look at the successful clubs. If you think about the last 10 years, for me, you're looking at your Man Cities, your Chelseas. They're the ones who probably won the most trophies out of probably the lot in the Premier League. Now, when it comes to Man City, I kind of look at them in a very opposite way. Like, ironically, you've got the whole Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sacking, and the Man United structure has been put into the spotlight. But I want to look across the road to the noisy neighbours and look at Man City, because when I see Man United, I think stale, too traditional. I look at them, forward thinking, really expansive. They never seem to want to stop. Now, for me, Man City, it's like it was tailor-made for Pep Guardiola. Like, he surely, when it comes to the question, he could succeed.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but you said it. Thing is, I think they made it quite clear by hiring Pep's backroom staff that they wanted Pep. Like, they set the whole club up, including like the players they bought as well, the style of football that they were trying to give. It was all leading towards eventually bringing Pep Guardiola in. And I think they've had that. I think because of that identity of wanting to have a Pep Guardiola club, I think even post Pep Guardiola, they've already built a foundation of what the club wants from a manager, that they can even go on and repeat it. Now it's not just like, now we know City for playing possession style, quite like very, very, very like short passes, a lot of just like fluid football. And now they're going to look, and then past this, they're going to look at other managers and stuff like that, and just like know and they're going to have an idea of who they want next, where they want next. And the way things flow through that club, it's a model that it's done in multiple different clubs simultaneously that are all working together. So the next manager might not even be a big name. It might be someone that they've been bringing through in like New York City, and they're going to now transfer him over. Because they know the tactics there. They've got everything set up for him to now just quickly shift over. It's a very good structure to have.
I must admit, when it comes to the City group, as it's probably not as a popular opinion saying as being a Manchester United fan, but I actually really like the City model. I love the fact that when Sheikh Mansour, and I think it's probably really important, when you look at Sheikh Mansour when he came in, he wanted to be a winner. He wanted to dominate the game. He brought in the likes of Soriano. With Soriano, they brought in Tiki, Bergstein, or what was his name? Tiki anyway. And Tiki. Both of them are ex-Barcelona. Both of them are obviously, exactly that. So it made sense for Pep to eventually come. You see the players that they're bringing in, the age of those players, they were bringing in the next ones to be the dominant force, that 21 to 24 age range. They got their Kevin De Bruyne's, the Raheem Sterling's, John Stones in terms of that ball playing centre back, Rodri, Edison. There's a there's a consistent model every single time, and the way that actually they transform themselves from that spine of Toure and Silva, Aguero, they actually did that pretty magnificently, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely.
But the bit that I really love when it comes to City and this model, which I think is going to show some longevity, is the fact that they are starting to have clubs in different continents. So you've got the New York City FC, you've got Melbourne City FC. They've got a couple of clubs now that are in Japan and in South America, and they've also got Genoa and in Spain. So they're growing and they're growing. Now, some people might argue conflicts of interest and this, that, and the other, but for me, given the investment from Citigroup, all these clubs are going to be like central hubs for the greatest talents, and then they can probably start doing transfers on the sly. I said they can probably start getting managers
between themselves. They'll be doing it all between themselves because there's no need to look to anywhere else. So then now they're going to save. That's even going to be cost effective as well, because you're literally going to give a transfer to like New York City for example, and it's basically going back to them. They're not like, no one loses out. It's a very, very like, it's a very, very smart idea. It's like, it's basically they're building a football empire.
Absolutely.
And because now they have so many different so many different clubs in so many different continents, they will never be behind the game, because whatever small thing is new in Spain, they will now know about it and can quickly transfer it over to the UK, or transfer over to head of the game in that way. Or they find like a new player in this country, quickly scout, bring him over, and you think, oh, he'll suit this league really well, we can bring him over. Like, they've basically built something to dominate the world of football, not just Europe.
100%.
Literally, they're planning to dominate the whole world, which I don't think anywhere else. I don't think anyone is really ready for that right now.
Sounds like a Dr. Evil scheme at this moment in time, but football.
It might as well be. It might as well be.
But as said, look, investment is key, isn't it? Every manager needs support. And I can't say that Man City managers are ever, certainly Pep, are not supported when it comes to transfers. I think we always laugh saying that this guy's nearly spent like what, 1 billion on defenders alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if he needs a player, they get a player, but they're not always prepared to panic. They do have a certain ceiling when it comes to getting a certain player, but when they want that player, if it's around that 65 million pound mark and they are the one, they will get him. You look at Cancelo, we probably thought, oh, that's a bit expensive. We look at Kyle Walker, thinking, well, that's another expensive signing.
Yeah.
Mendy, well, less said about him, the better.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? They are prepared to spend the money. But look what it's equated to. They got the right profile of player in, and it's equated to trophies. They've got the extreme players to play under an extreme manager because I don't know. I'm not sure if he can necessarily work with people who aren't as good technically. But he literally looks like he has everything. So for me, Pep definitely is one of the people who can truly succeed under that state of ownership.
Yeah, because they made it for him.
They made it for him. It's the interesting question is, can they succeed after him?
Yeah, that is a big question. It really, and thing is, who is really the main thing is who is really like Pep to bring in now, and that's a whole another issue that I'm not gonna be surprised if they have a whole 20-year plan for the next 5 managers to come through.
Yeah,
and they've got who they like. I wouldn't be surprised if they have this new manager that no one even knows about, hidden somewhere in Japan, that's gonna come in and now completely change football again, and what's it called, bring this completely new style of football that we've never seen before. Like they're the trendsetters of football right now, and like everyone's kind of just playing catch up.
Yeah, I think Nagelsmann might fit that. Just answer your question, I think he might. Let's see what he does at Bayern Munich. Let's see what he does. But going from one oil slicker to another one who's done some fantastic developing of a club, and that's Chelsea. The question again, like you think about the managers, well, Chelsea are the most ruthless club when it comes to actually sacking managers. Like if you don't play well for a few games, you're gone. But Chelsea's model is there; they get trophies. So actually, are the conditions right for these managers when they come in?
It's so weird because in a way, they're almost the antithesis of Man City. So like the way Man City built their club for Pep, it's almost like they build the club for themselves, and the manager they bring in is to suit them, not they suit the manager. So if you look at the managers that have come in, the Jose Mourinho's, the Ancelottis, they're all quite like pragmatic managers. This is not a bad thing. They just know what they want and who they're going to bring in for it. Even even to likes of like Sarri as well, Conte as well. They're all very like pragmatic, not really that heavily attacking of managers. And because they've kept that consistent, you get a certain type of player constantly coming through because you're going to get all the players that are going to suit this exact system. So everything just keeps on being consistent. The only thing that would really ruin Chelsea is if football changed, that style of football could not operate anymore. But by then, like you can't really take away defending out of football. So they're just kind of set in their own ways for quite a while now.
They are, but then Thomas Tuchel's kind of perhaps shown that it can be modernized. And we talked about how target strikers are now changed to more of a link-up striker. So what was your Drogba's and your Diego Costas? You're now looking at what was a Morata when he was there, maybe a Werner. I think they're perhaps trying to go back to a target striker with Lukaku, but that's my opinion. But yeah, I'm not so convinced. But they're using their forwards in a sort of more of a cleverer light now. Havertz as well. Let's not forget him. But for me, when you look at the Chelsea structure, this has been something that's been really developed probably from mid 2000s. You got to think, Roman Abramovich, he has invested a huge sum of money into their Cobham training facility, into their academy. And if you look at the academy, the academies always win, the FA Cups.
Yeah,
and
the youth
everything
FA
that.
Cups, youth Premier Leagues.
They're a fantastic team. And actually, if you look now, and again, this is something that managers do like. They, not only if they can't get the transfers in, but what's coming in from the youth. This is perhaps where City maybe struggle a bit more, because that's okay. We got your Phil Foden, but that looks like the exception to the rule at City. You look at Chelsea. Wow, you've got Callum Hudson-Odoi, you've got Reece James, you've got Chalobah, you've got Mount, you've got Ruben Loftus-Cheek, you've got Christensen. And that's just the ones at Chelsea. There's still players who aren't playing at Chelsea in the Premier League who are having really good seasons. So for a manager to have that in his locker, saying, "Oh, what's coming up in the youth? Oh, I'll try them out." Do you know what I mean? Like there was that confidence, and that's got to be a massive thing, as well as knowing you can get that 60-70 million pound player to come in as to supplement, really, which is a madness.
Yeah, I think they've invested a lot into their youth, especially because there was a period of time when Roman Abramovich I think he was losing 3 million every week because he was just going out buying players, putting them on high wages and just trying to win the easy way, which isn't sustainable. Many clubs previously have shown, like even for example, like a Blackburn, they had shown that you can't sustain success by just buying out. So he now went back and thought, oh, I need to find a way that my club can be self-sustaining. And the way he's made it so that what he's done is so smart. Like he gets players that are, maybe they're not at like the world-class level yet. If they are, like that's also good. But he'll buy like a Hazard who was just like, he was literally had his best season over in France, and he came over, and then he's gone to like another level, and then right at his peak, his best years, they sold him, and they've made like a massive profit off of that, and they keep doing that. Like you never really see a player in Chelsea stay past the age of 30.
No,
you don't really see like. And like they sell them at like just before the decline, and I do not know how, but almost every time they have managed to find when a player is about to decline hard and immediately sell them off.
Yeah,
and they've reaped all the benefits and have left someone else to just deal with the backlash of whatever that player is going through.
Yeah, well, I think it's weird with Chelsea, because when we were talking about Man City in terms of how successful they've been, they've looked like they've really stuck to that model in terms of like that certain age bracket. With Chelsea, I kind of feel they get what's fashionable in the moment. When like Bakayoko signings, Havertz was having the season of his life, so they get him, and Bernard's having the season of his life, so they get him.
Drinkwater and Kante.
Drinkwater. Well, Kante's been awesome, but Drinkwater perhaps not so much. But it does kind of feel that way. But it's not costing them. I think the only downside when it comes to Chelsea is, does that manager have that long-term success? And that kind of remains to be seen. It seems like you have a good season, then you have a bit of a blip season, then you get replaced. And so I think in the immediate, you've definitely got a lot of tools there. I think in terms of the ownership, I think that Marina Granovskaya, she's absolutely fantastic when it comes to. This is someone who's not from a footballing background, but
I don't know how she does it.
Well, she's incredible for negotiations. If you look at, she's got close ties with Roman, with the previous, businesses, but she will listen to the footballing side, which I think is always quite key, isn't it? Something that we're about to talk about with another club, another well-known club. But she'll listen to likes of Petr Cech, a football guy. Do you know what I mean? And that's where you have the sensible. She's there to just kill the business, and fair enough. But there's always that football inside that's listened to, which I think takes us nicely to the old boys of the Premier League. But before we do that, guys, as I said, that link below. If you want to send messages, if you want to donate, please hit that link there below. It'll be, I said, we want to see your chats. We want to see some real engagement from you guys. And if you can donate, it helps grow the channel and we can make things even bigger and better. Now, I think the next two or three teams we're about to talk about, Man United, so we could be here all day. We'll try and keep this quite trim. Liverpool and Spurs, but we're going to bring on another chap on. Shaka, this guy here, he loves his structures. He loves his club structures. So Shaka, welcome onto the show. How are you?
How are you doing, guys? I'm good, man. And big up to the chat as well. And make sure everyone subscribes and hits the like as well. Like button on there. And big up to you guys as well for doing your thing.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on. So we're about to approach Man United. In terms of we've discussed two really good models, very different in some ways, very similar in others. But Manchester United, very much in the spotlight when it comes to their club structures. If there is a club structure, I think there's a lot of promotion and praise for the commercial side, not so much when it comes to the footballing side. And ultimately, it's led to the question: can any manager succeed under that particular structure? Now, they've gone through a recent change in terms of they've employed John Murtough as the director of football. They've got Darren Fletcher in to be that technical director. But is anything changing? Are we perhaps talking too soon? Ultimately, everything went through Ed Woodward and Matt Judges, who perhaps aren't the best footballing brains out there. Maybe more from a negotiation, commercial point of view. But Shaka, what are your thoughts?
I mean, my thoughts are basically the problems have started. Well, I wouldn't say started, but they were sort of masked under Alex Ferguson. It's because we were actually winning things, and obviously, when you're winning things, that's you're not going to concentrate on what's going on behind the scenes with what was happening. And obviously, when Sir Alex Ferguson retired from managing, and we had David Moyes in, you started to see the cracks within the structure, or I could say, the lack of structure at this club. And right now, I think everyone sort of realised, or most of the United fans have realised, that the problem is way above than the manager. The problems have always, been up at the board level.
Yeah.
It could, it's to do with things like the footballing side of things are really bad at this club. Like, for example, the transfer negotiations, the amount of money we've paid for players and, not had anything to show for it as well. Questions also need to be asked. I know it's a bit of a touchy subject, but was Ronaldo actually, needed for us this year? Because I think I truly believe that I don't think we needed Ronaldo, or needed to sign him, because we've got Cavani, we've got Greenwood coming up as well, we've got Diallo on the right wing as well. So it's things like this that it makes you question the board: that are they actually implementing a structure, or are they not? But hopefully, things will change under Ralf Rangnick once he comes in.
Yeah. Well,
but I think the structure has been for the past few years a total mess, and the thing, what I think shows it the most is, people who've been to Old Trafford, just seeing the stadium crumbling apart as well. It just reflects everything. It just reflects everything that's going on the pitch as well.
Well, that's the thing, Shaka. That is the thing. So we talked about the two previous clubs, and here we are with Manchester United, who haven't really invested. Now, I appreciate when it comes to stadiums, that's more of a cosmetic thing, but we've had reports of the training facilities at Carrington, in particular the women's team. They did a fantastic job even getting into the Premier League. And the season, and it was COVID, that didn't help, but they were training in terrible conditions, and even some of those pictures at Carrington was mentioned, and you're thinking, hang on, Carrington, this should be, we're the richest club in the world, this should be state of the art complex, but no.
You only have to take a look at, like you said, Manchester City. Just look at the amount of money that Sheikh Mansour and the City Group have invested into the facilities, and they've built a campus just north from just a bit north from the stadium. And it's I've been to the campus and I've seen the campus as well. It's fantastic campus.
It's absolutely beautiful.
It's similar to the way La Masia was. You've got the youth coming in there training and also getting an education as well at the same time. And you wonder why these youth products from Manchester are going to the opposite side and not to United.
Well, it's a very good point, and actually, it's funny you talk about to Barcelona. Keep hold of that, because we will touch upon them later on in the show. So for me, when I look at Manchester United, the issue is all around money, isn't it? It's about what's the share price doing? Does it commercially look good? Are there lots of retweets about it? Or the Ronaldo deal broke the internet. It literally $300 from that, in terms of the spike in their share price, and because of it, they sold a load of shares. Funny that, but everything is always seems to be motivating around that, and it kind of begs the question: the players that we get in, is it always the case that it has to be some marketing aspect of it? Like, when do we have to keep drumming up someone to be, they're the most sought after player, so now we can get them? Like, they made such a frenzy with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who you probably argue isn't a big name in world football, but they made it such a big deal that he ended up becoming this big thing. So it seemed justifiable into doing it. People like Fred, you're probably like, well, Fred's not a big name. But if you're a Man United fan, we've got Fred the Red. The marketing is there already. It's there. So for me, it doesn't feel consistent. I think the Ronaldo comment is spot on. It might be an uncomfortable truth, but hey, this is why we have the show. I feel like Ollie had, he was cut from the knees when it came to that Ronaldo. So it felt like the team was being set up for something else. Ronaldo comes in, and as people could probably appreciate, especially with his age now, Ronaldo is still a great team around him. And I just don't feel that was ever the case. But this isn't the first time it happened. We've seen previous managers complain about the transfer window. Mourinho, LVG's been very vocal about it. David Moyes has been very vocal about it. It's always a bit of dawdling. Now, when I look at that structure at Manchester United, it feels like a proper corporate business. There's so many layers, I need to get so many chains of authorization. So I go to this level to get authorization, then then it goes to Ed for authorization, then it goes to the Glazers, and it's all more money orientated and just crap. Like, I'm just gonna call it out for what it is. But another club that seems to remind me, just from the optics point of view, and Spurs fans, feel free to really, drum in some comments at this point. But I feel Spurs is in a similar vein as Manchester United. It may not be as obviously big in terms of its operations, but even though they've got a director of football, they've had a director of football in before. I think it was Baldini before Poch came in, but they've now got another doff in. Is that Patrici?
Patrici,
So he's in. Okay, cool. So since he's been in, they got in Nuno, who seemed like there was their F choice, and he's gone already. So and then they got Conte because he was the best that was available. But so that's not a great start from a Doff's point of view. But it feels like every decision that's made at Spurs, I don't think it is Patrici. I feel like that's an empty title from the optics. I feel like it's Daniel Levy, a bit like with Manchester United, that it's Ed Woodward, who's always behind every decision. And with Daniel Levy, I think somebody who looked really shrewd, who looked really good when it came to business. You were like, oh yeah, you got Christian Eriksen in, and you got these players in, you got Gareth Bale, etc., etc. And it looked at quite fondly. But as time has gone on, and Spurs have kind of got closer and became more relevant, he's just looked like it's about him in terms of that ego. They literally rejected £130 million for crying out loud for Harry Kane. Think of how they could have reinvested that into their team.
Yeah,
but it became the Daniel Levy show.
I mean, it sort of reminds me of Chelsea. The early days when I think Mourinho came for his first stint. It was all about Roman. That's how it was. It was like a similar thing to that. Like that's what Levy sort of reminds me of. Like it's all about him. It's his way or the highway.
Yeah. But do you think? Like I said, I'm going to keep going back to the question here. Do you think Spurs managers are given that opportunity? Can they succeed under Levy and under this real weird tight, ship in terms of money's never really truly invested? Because yes, Spurs may not be at a high level in terms of winning things like what Man United were, Chelsea, Man City, but they are now relevant. So what can they do it? Because obviously they've had a few good managers and it's not really worked out.
I mean, what counts as success for Spurs? To be honest, what would Spurs?
Sam, what would you say is successful for you in terms of Spurs and the optics of it? And this is probably, I'll tell you what, let's do it to break it down, like from the ownership's point of view. What do they is successful for them?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you define, or from a club's owner's perspective, what do you think is successful for Spurs? Because the others, they want, well, Man United don't, but the others want to win. So, do you think they want to win?
I think obviously the fans want to win. Every fan wants their club to win something, but Daniel Levy, I don't think necessarily winning is his main priority. I think it's actually about how he looks. So getting Spurs, like basically doing whatever he can so that he still looks like a good person in the eyes of everyone else. So for example, if Spurs to have an awful season league-wise, as in let's say they come 8th or 9th, which is not good. But then they scrape a win and win the Conference League. You'll get people celebrating that it's their first trophy since 2009, 2008. And then people are going to be like, oh yeah, everything's so good. But then he's someone that will constantly paper over cracks just to keep up an image of I'm this person, I'm this because I generally don't think he actually cares about how Tottenham Hotspur. I think he honestly cares about, first of all, his pocket, and second of all how he looks, which I think is not that much different from United. As in, people say that we don't invest. We've invested. I'm telling you, the one thing that we have invested the most into out of any club, pretty much in world football, is our PR. We have we have a world-class PR team. The amount of posts of Ronaldo since he came in, I'm pretty sure we've probably, for every goal we've conceded this season, there's probably about 5 posts of Ronaldo. And the amount of positive, because at the end of the day, with especially with stocks, opinion is what determines the value. If people have a positive opinion about the club, stocks go up. If people have a negative opinion, stocks go down. So I think they're trying to utilize PR and utilize certain signings because that's why Daniel Levy loves a good Kane story. That's why Poch said, "Oh, I was forced to play Kane in that Champions League final because the hope was that Kane scores that winning goal to win Spurs their first Champions League final. Everyone goes ecstatic because he's one of their own. Spurs stocks go through the roof. Obviously, that didn't happen. Everything came crumbling down, but everything he does, like, and that's why he's so reluctant to actually sell Kane because he's missed the Spurs. He's their poster boy, and to let that go is just like he can't reduce everything. Yeah,
but maybe he should look at the next team I'm about to talk about, and that's Liverpool. I say the next team, in fact, that they got rid of Luis Suarez. They got rid of Coutinho. And since then, they've won the Premier League and they've won the Champions League. And they're now deemed as one of the best teams, well, if not in the country, in Europe. So maybe Daniel Levy should look at that. But I want to talk about Liverpool. And Sam, I'm going to come to you first. I want to really sort of challenge the narrative because from the optics, again, the owners aren't particularly well liked. I hear a lot of people being quite disgruntled when it comes to FSG and the owners of Liverpool. Similar ways to Manchester United. We're always told that they're not investing in the right way, like Manchester United. Yet, here we are talking about Liverpool. They're back. They're a successful team. They've won Premier League. They've won Champions League. And they've been in multiple European finals actually since Klopp has been in. So why is it so different, do you think, with them?
I feel like to me personally, it feels a bit like United with Fergie.
Okay.
I feel like because for a while, I'm pretty sure after Kenny Dalglish was sacked as manager, that was, I think Brendan Rodgers was the first manager. That's when they started making improvements in the backroom staff. And then Klopp came in and he really accelerated that process, bringing in a lot of his people. But I think that's the issue that they're going to have once Klopp leaves, is that he's basically created their current way of operating, more or less. Not necessarily he created like the full model, but like especially the people that are there. And I think because he's not staying much longer, if we're being quite frank. I think when he leaves, we're gonna have, especially like United with like Brian Gill, it's gonna be a lot of people just like leaving, and then we're gonna have it's gonna be another rebuild. They've built something for Klopp to stay, and what he wants, but when it past that, I don't know if they really have anything that's really sustainable. And I think also, if you look at where Liverpool were, they were really ready to accept anything as long as it would make them a good club or something even relevant again. And I think just they gave managers a lot of, and they've given Klopp a lot of freedom to come in and create this atmosphere of it's very like family. It's like a family there. They're very, very family orientated.
With the family, and Shaka, I'm going to come to you. Do you think what makes Liverpool very different to Manchester United is the fact that they do have this money ball approach? And for those who perhaps don't know that term, it's not just chucking loads of money and hoping it sticks. This is a very scientific based approach where you are looking at, you're basically looking at stats based players, really looking at players who are undervalued for their output. And the likes of Michael Edwards, it was very key to that when it comes to Liverpool, and works closely with Klopp. So, do you think that's a huge difference there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge difference, and again, fantastic for Liverpool the way that they've invested in not just throwing money at the problem or buying or overpaying for players that, the world-class talent. They are actually studying players. Obviously, the team of Michael Edwards, I think it's Michael Gordon as well, one of the people in there as well.
Yes.
The financier,
Yeah, and you have Klopp as well, discussing and having a chat, with each other in regards to signing players and then going out there and signing the player that they want. Like you've seen it done with Diogo Jota. They've brought in Konate as well, and it's not like they've paid silly money for these players. They've paid like maybe 30 million, 40 million.
Yeah,
and it's a fantastic model. It's a fantastic model that Liverpool have, and I sort of wish that we implemented a similar model to them at United as well.
So is the key here, because a lot of people, as I said, real surface level here, will look at Klopp and go, he makes the absolute most of what is a bad situation. Because a lot of people don't like the FSG. They feel like they're very tight with their money, that they don't invest. I think the last couple of seasons hasn't been perhaps as prolific as other clubs in the transfer window.
Yeah.
But the output, you look at them in the league, and they're doing extremely well. So is it just a case of a manager understanding their situation and actually then having a good tactical, good scientific approach to help in terms of the lack of finances?
Yeah, I mean, the manager helps on the footballing side of things as well. But I do believe that the way that FSG are going about it in buying the players, I think it's the right way. Because, you don't want to be splashing money and throwing money at, clubs. And, it's similar to us. Like we obviously pay ransom money, if you know what I mean. If we get quoted 80 million for a player, and it's like, we have to pay that 80 million. Whereas with Liverpool, it's like, if a club tries to, go above the valuation that Liverpool asking, they'll just walk away from the deal.
Yeah.
And I think the disgruntlement with the FSG sort of started. It might have started just when the Super League was announced. I think that's when the disgruntlement sort of started amongst Liverpool fans with FSG.
Yeah.
I think that was a big trigger.
I was going to ask you guys, just I'm looking for a very sort of short reply in terms of before we go on to other clubs in the continent.
Yeah.
Bit like with what we said about City being geared up for Pep Guardiola. Do you see that continuity of success after Klopp? Or do you feel like this has been built for a Klopp? Or can another German manager that's come, that plays a very similar way, come in and essentially do the same thing?
I think
we'll start with Xhaka.
I think they will, to be honest. There's plenty of good German managers over at Germany as well, and it necessarily doesn't have to be a German manager. Just look at Erik ten Hag as well over at Ajax. I think he would do wonders at Liverpool as well. So yeah, there are managers out there built for success for Liverpool after Klopp leaves.
Sam, what about you?
Yeah. So like I did say earlier, like it could go wrong after Klopp. It really does depend on who they bring in, because with Klopp, whatever he does goes. Like he says, I want this type of player. The sporting people know, like, oh, I'm gonna look at the stats and find this type of, like, I want someone that gets me 30 goals a season from right wing. Oh, most Salah is doing this. They're gonna need to get another manager of that, like a Ten Hag, who knows what he wants and knows like what to do to get it. Yeah. If they are able to get in managers like that, they'll be able to repeat the success. I just don't know if they'll be able to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as I said, guys, I've said it at the start and midway through, but don't forget to donate in the link below. Okay, it's all there in the description of live chats as we speak. But as we go from one German, let's talk about the old German clubs of RB. So our RBs are really, and I want to bring them all in as like one umbrella. So yes, we've got Leipzig, Salzburg. We'll throw in New York City as well. But I think that's a really interesting model. They're a club that's come from nowhere. They're now quite prominent. Salzburg bearing in mind they're an Austrian team, they're starting to become regulars in the Champions League. Leipzig are starting to do a few things. So that's a very different model, probably something that's more similar in ways to the City group approach. But it does seem like it's a very lucrative model in terms of you getting really young, unknown talents on the cheap and you sell for high. And it seems like that model is generated lots of wealth for these clubs, and literally made them better. Made them well known in the game. So, Sam, what are your thoughts on RB?
Yeah, like that RB model it's amazing because they'll get a player, then they'll send him. So like, let's say they got an American, he'll be in America, then he'll now go to like to get to the next level. He'll start going to Salzburg, playing football in Salzburg. Then he'll now go to the next level to now go into Leipzig and play in Leipzig.
Yeah.
And then from Leipzig, they'll now sell him off to, let's say, a Liverpool, a Bayern Munich, the top club for upwards of like 50 million. It's like they get the player basically at their infancy, like as soon as that player is available to be put into an academy. And it's legitimately, it's like taking the academy system and putting it as football clubs.
Yeah,
that's effectively what they've done. And it's honestly the most fascinating thing, because like my first impression was like, oh, it's just a lot like the City group, but it's really not, because obviously they still want success, but they've found like a weird mix between being a Man City with like having the multiple different clubs and bringing players through that, but they've also found a way to be like a United and be profit based and want to just like make the most money as well, which is like that's been the most surprising thing from it for me.
Yeah, Shaq. I know this is your bread and butter. I know this is what you live for. So yeah, you give me your thoughts on that, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on the opposite end of that scale when it comes to Bayern Munich afterwards. So yeah, let's hear about your thoughts on RB.
Yeah, I mean, again, as Sam's beautifully put it, it's a fantastic model. The way that they've, gone about the footballing side of things, the business side of things as well. You just have to look at RB Leipzig's history. Like, they were only recently founded, I think 2012. But they were German, under a different name. They were in 50-year German football. Obviously, they've brought the right footballing minds into the club, and within 5 years they went straight up to Bundesliga. That's how quickly that they've that they were serious about this club, that they want to be at the top of German football. And now you see them competing with Dortmund and Bayern Munich as well. They've sort of taken like Schalke and Wolfsburg's place, because back in early 2000s, you remember Schalke and Wolfsburg and Leverkusen were really good back then.
What I find interesting with RB, and they like to bring in really successful individuals who have a good deep knowledge of the game. Ralf Rangnick is the one. He's very much in the spotlight at this moment for being the pending interim Manchester United manager. But there's also Mitchell, who has had great success at Spurs, Southampton. He went over to Leipzig. Now I think he's currently at Monaco, and so it's not like they just rest on their laurels. They're always looking to get the ambitious types in, to just keep the wheels churning in their club.
That's how it should be. That's how football clubs should be run. In that sense, that as soon as someone leaves, of importance within the board, or a footballing director leaves, you need to bring in someone who's maybe got the same experience and knowledge as them, and work as a harmony between the manager, the board as well.
Yeah, it's very similar to, we were talking about the Moneyball element, and it's probably that German connection there. But I feel that RB do it beautifully. They really do it
Yep.
beautifully, and probably another team in the Prem that we haven't, talked about. We'll just touch upon is Leicester. They're a very similar one where they get these unknown players who just come in, who are able to fit a profile. And I feel like the RB clubs always seem to do that so well.
Yep.
But yeah. Going back to Germany, we've got the old-fashioned but very successful Bayern Munich, who maybe Manchester United could learn a thing or two from this giant.
Yeah, Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich is weird though, because like they've basically put themselves in German culture to the point that every German kid wants to play for Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
You will never hear them talk about any other German club apart from Bayern Munich. So what they know they can do, because they know they're the top dogs, they're the biggest club, which if you speak to a lot of young players from like the 2000 and people that grew up in 2000s, they would have said the exact same thing about United. But what Bayern Munich have done, they just capitalized on it. They were like, okay, your best young player, we're gonna take them, and we're like, if they fit us, and then we're gonna turn them into a world-class team, because they play in Germany. German football is like they're already ingrained in the culture of German football.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, and they basically represent what German football is. So we're gonna take all the players from here, and basically build our team on people on basically the Bayern Munich German DNA.
But that's what I'm saying. And Shaka, maybe you can sort of add from Sam's comments, because it can't just surely be just taking the best from the rest. Surely there must be something a bit more grounded in the fundamentals of Bayern Munich.
Basically, what they've done is what United used to do back in the days. When early 2000s we'd buy arguably the best talents in the Premier League, and we wouldn't pay over the top for these sort of players. I know your Ferdinand was, Rio Ferdinand was one of them signings. Yeah, was an exception. But we would sign players from within our own league, and that's what Bayern have been doing for so many years. They've been buying players like Mats Hummels, for example, Mario Götze as well. They bought all these players from within the league who are probably the best players at the time in the league as well. And it's not like they've paid crazy amount of money for them. As you keep saying, Moneyball. They've just bought them into the team, and there you go. That's it. You've definitely won the league next year.
So you think any manager can succeed whilst at Bayern Munich? Well, with this current structure and very well, it's a tried and tested. It's been going for many years, probably since the 70s. But yeah, you feel like that can work every time.
But it's not even just that. I think it's also buying the best possible youth prospects as well. If you look at who they bought recently, like Jamal Musiala as well, another good exciting prospect into the academy, and he's now playing for the first team as well. I think going back to the question, I think a manager, depending on what manager they are looking for, can succeed at the club. If it fits the profile of the club, I think they can succeed. Like you only have to look at what's it, Hansi Flick? That's his name. Completely forgot that for a second, but yeah, you got to look at Hansi Flick. He's succeeded. Obviously, won the Champions League as well. Jupp Heynckes as well. Previously, won the Champions League as well with Bayern. Yep, great manager again. So if you look at their history, it obviously tells you, these past few years, when they've won the Champions League, who have been their managers and their style of football. So it's the powers above that decide these matters. You have people like Rangnick as well, who's just left as well recently.
Yes.
People like Hasan Slamidovic as well, who's an ex-player as well.
Oliver Kahn, yeah.
Yeah, Oliver
that,
Kahn.
CEO.
Yeah. Yeah, and
But-
I think Herbert Heine as well, who's just taken over in the role as well.
But this is the thing, and for the final 10 minutes, I want to talk about the big two in Spain. I'm sure you can work it out
Yeah.
because their structures is a madness. But as I said, we got 10 minutes. So, and then I want to ask you a real sort of question after that. So, with Barcelona, let's start with that one because this was a club that was loved by football fans. Really, even if you hated the fact that they're always winning all the time, you appreciated what the structure that they had in place with the academy.
Yep.
The president, manager, all the way down to the players. It seemed like there was a real continuity. You had the tiki taka, everything. It all just seemed perfectly in place. And as things have gone on, and I appreciate the president's change, and let's be honest, president only changes because of fans, because it's a fan-owned club. That they went for more of a commercial approach, probably more of a Man United, Real Madrid, and they wanted to compete. And it felt like they wanted to get superstar after superstar after superstar. And they've gone away from their principles. And it's something that you loved about Barcelona is now this money grabbing machine, and now they're broke. They've come out. They were forced to get rid of Messi because of it, and here we are. So actually, there's a two-part with Barcelona. Could any manager work under the previous regime? I'm pretty sure I know what your answer is going to be. I'll start with Shaka here, and the current structure with the whole just chucking money at any old player for the sake because they're the biggest name going. Can managers really thrive in that environment?
I think the structure is sort of changed with the recruitment of Xavi as a manager.
Yes.
So I think previously it was just they tried to do what Real Madrid have been doing for so many years, Galactico signings and trying to win everything possible. But for whatever reason, obviously it's not worked out for them. But I think with the reset that they're having right now, obviously going into into bankruptcy, I think they've got to give Xavi time and see how he works out for him. Because I know he's obviously trying to bring the youth products back up again from the La Masia as well into the club. So at the end there, I think going back to your question, would any manager succeed? I'm not quite sure about that at Barcelona at this moment in time. It's just simply because the politics that has gone on and transpired as well.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Like I said, they tried to copy Real Madrid. So what about Real Madrid's model? Because when I look at that club again, I just see the CEO. I just see Perez. Perez's way or the highway. And this guy's amount. But we say that, but they've won lots of trophies. They're not exactly a rubbish club, are they? So how is it that they can do this? How is it that they can literally try and chuck money at superstars? I know the Galacticos didn't work to a certain degree, but how is it that they can do that?
I mean, I believe obviously it works because obviously the amount of funds that they have. You see, the shirt sponsors that they generate at their club is immense compared to any other club. I think they're the richest club in the world. So that's why they can, and the sponsorships that they have as well in place, they can afford, your obviously Ronaldo's. They can afford to sign Benzema's and Bale's and those sort of players. They can just keep bringing them in. But what I believe is Real Madrid is technically a Chelsea on steroids. That's what it is. Like they will fire managers, as soon as they start, losing games. They'll fire them straight away because for them, they have to keep up. They have that pressure of winning. For them, it's in their mentality to win.
Even Zidane said it. If you don't win a trophy, at least one trophy a season at Real Madrid, you failed.
Yep.
He literally owned that. He said, "I left because I failed as a manager for one season." the standards are so high. I honestly, the thing is, the first time they did try this model, it didn't really work the way they thought it would. The first Galacticos project had one of the most star-studded teams. However, they didn't dominate like everyone assumed they would. Like that the team had like one of the best squads we've ever seen, and everyone thought they would win all the Champions Leagues, all back to back, all the La Liga titles, and keep going. But there wasn't but what they were doing back then was just buying players without a really good idea of what they were actually what the team was supposed to be. I think the difference between that and what Zidane did was he came in and was like, I've got this what I want to do for my football. We're gonna buy the big names, but we're gonna buy these big names, big names.
Yeah.
And literally the second time around, winning 3 Champions Leagues back to back, absolutely insane. Especially with the current clubs that were going around, especially clubs like MSN, to actually come in and beat MSN was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And like the fact that they're able to and even now what they're doing now is they've been going to Brazil a lot and trying to buy like the best young player from Brazil and bring them over. They did it with Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo. I think they're actually trying like a new style, trying to get a new mix of their football. And I think with someone like Ancelotti, it's really going to work out for them.
Yeah,
I think it's really, really interesting, and so I'm going to go to the question. I'll go first, and I'm going to keep going back to the question. It's the question of the show in terms of, do managers really only succeed at clubs if the club has an idea of the type of football they want to play, and you're that type of manager who implements that particular brand of football? Because the examples that we've gone through where there's lots of success, so we've talked about City, we touched on Chelsea, we talked about Bayern Munich. There seems to be a continuity in terms of the ideals about the club. Now, the ones that aren't as successful, or the ones that it seems to be going up and down, you're looking at your Man Uniteds, your Spurs, and people like that. They're the ones who don't seem to have that continuity. They just seem to just go around chasing anything, kicking a can down the road. So, is that important? Shaka, I'll get to you.
I think, as you said, Spawn, I think a lot of the things what you've mentioned is important. Like for a club, first and foremost, is having an identity, a style of play. A certain players that they actually want to bring. Do they want to bring in, world-class players, or do they want to bring youth into it? That needs to be the main factors as well. When deciding the manager. And then as for going for the manager, the type of manager, what type of manager would suit the club and suit the style of players that they have at the club. That's another important factor as well in this topic.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have people like Pep Guardiola playing tiki-taka football. You have Conte with his own style of football as well. Completely different styles. So, that's the most... shall I say, one of the most important things is trying to find that balance, that in-between ground.
Yeah. Sam, your thoughts?
Well, I think there's actually 2 solutions. You can either be a club that knows what you want and you know what you're going to need to do to achieve success, like a Chelsea, or like a City. Or you can try and go the more Liverpool route, where you're open to letting that manager come in and put his own stamp on the club.
Yeah.
And if you can't because you can't have both, where the manager wants to do one thing and then we want to do another thing. For example, LVG is very big on youth players. He wants to bring in youth. He wants to promote them and get a good young squad playing. However, United were out trying to buy established superstars and trying to buy like top players in Europe, like buying someone like Di Maria. Does like why? How would that have like ever worked? And then trying to get someone like Schweinsteiger, that was the most baffling thing for me, because that would never work under a manager that literally goes against what he's doing. I just think, yeah, it does need to align what the manager wants, but one of them is going to have to submit to the other, or come to agreement. You can't have both of them clashing heads about different ideologies.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about one last club, and the reason being, because we could talk about so many clubs. I just want a special shout out. I want to say to the clubs like Monaco, Lille, you know, who you know, Lucas Ocampos, really, basically, who's been involved in those clubs. You know, Ajax. You know, we know about their academy and how wonderful it is in terms of world football. But the club I really want to talk about, for obvious reasons, PSG, because you hear, you know, Man City and PSG. You know, just to bring us full circle, they're always talked about in the same breath because, you know, the Middle Eastern investment, oil-rich owners, this, that, and the other. But both have gone about it very, very differently. PSG seems to be less shock and awe tactics. Let's get the big names in for the big bucks. I don't know. I don't know if it's actually been that successful. Because ultimately, what is their version of success? Again, it goes back down to what's the level of success for all these other teams. PSG, surely it's just about winning the Champions League. It wasn't like 4 titles. It's not like with Man City. Man City, I think, last won a title back in the 60s. So they had to establish themselves as a dominant force in the league. PSG were already fairly all right. They may not have been winning it all the time. I think Lyon were probably more prominent. Yeah. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that particular ownership? Because it doesn't seem as successful as it should be, given the level of investment. Sam, we'll go with you.
I think I think they're very naive and are repeating the same mistakes Perez did in his first run of the Galacticos. They're just looking at names, looking at oh, it's this person. It's a problem that United even have now, of just looking at names, looking at who's popular, who's the one that's really getting the fans moving, and not really looking at like an overall plan. Because everyone was thinking, oh yeah, Messi, Messi, Neymar, Mbappe for front three. That's gonna absolutely destroy all of Europe. They're gonna do it all. That I'm expecting 150 goals. There were ridiculous claims being made, but it hasn't gone that way so far. It's taken Messi until not just recently to actually score his first league goal. And it's because they didn't really, and then they also bought like Hakimi, and they're buying Ramos, and it's like there's just not a real idea of what they want to do, because you can't necessarily have attacking fullbacks, a creative mid. Like they've all gone for like the people that make like things happen, and you don't really have a lot of those kind of players that go into a system and be the cogs in a system. They've got a lot of like standouts, and you can't have a team of all standouts, because a team of all standouts will never work. And I think they've just gone down the route of wanting to, oh, this is going to be like the most popular thing going, and then it's not really good where it's out for them.
No, I think it's very interesting, but you know, they've got footballing brains behind it. They've got really ambitious owners, haven't they, Shaka? Like Leonardo's is no chump, is he? He's well respected in the football community. So why is it that, are we just being a bit harsh on PSG because ultimately we will only see them as successful because they have to win the top prize, whereas we perhaps haven't done that with all the other clubs.
I think what PSG have done is, as going back to what Sam said, it's been a mix and a mishmash of Galactico signings, similar to Real Madrid with, that sort of thing, as well as Manchester United. It's like a mishmash of signing the best hot, up and coming youth players.
Yeah.
With a mix of, say, the shirt signing names as well, like your Lionel Messi. They've signed Ramos, who obviously his shirts will sell off the roof as well. They brought youth in as well, like Donnarumma, Nuno Mendes as well.
Yeah.
They've even bought one of Barcelona's academy players, Xavi Simons, as well recently.
Oh yeah.
As well, so it's again, they do have the footballing brains at the club. Leonardo, he is like well respected in the footballing community for his knowledge in regards to footballing. Football. But again, I think what PSG have done is they've built up that expectation and too high, and it's sort of fallen on top of their heads. And they've got carried away with it that we've signed all these top players, these world-class players, and the pressure's basically got to them when they get to the Champions League, because let's be honest, they've bottled the final as well. They look this year like they're struggling in the group stages as well, so it's not all too well at PSG.
Yeah, I'm not going to enjoy a club who can put together a dream team that I can't even put together on the internet. I'm not having it.
Yeah.
So, I'm not having it. But no, it is interesting. But I think final word really, because we've had a really decent in-depth discussion on a lot of clubs. We fit this just over an hour really. But just going back to the question, can managers succeed in this current ownership? So Sam, final words from you.
I would say only if the club fits the manager. It has to be a perfect fit.
Okay, beautiful. Chaka.
I'd say if the structure and the principles are there and the profile fits with the manager as well, then yeah, they can be successful.
Cool. No, guys, brilliant. Thank you for that.
Yep, thank you, Ivan.
Right. So, guys, when it comes to this show, make sure it's not only just YouTube in terms of subscribing. We've got other socials. We've got Twitter, we've got Instagram. Please interact with these channels. I want to hear from you guys what shows you want to see when it comes to Uncomfortable Truth. What topics do you want us to debate and discuss over? It'd be great to hear that and see that on the likes of Twitter and Instagram. But before we go out, again, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe. And don't forget, more importantly, to follow on the messages and the donate board. Because as I said, the more money that we get, the better we can actually make this whole channel, the whole setup. And actually, word on the street is that there's going to be something really, really big for the top donators out there. So keep a lookout for that one, guys. That's going to be in the near future. But for today, I'm going to say thank you to Sam. Thank you